Well, white nose syndrome, of course, is a disease a fungal disease that has killed really untold millions of bats in the United States since it was discovered in a cave up in upstate New York in the winter of 2006 and 7. And it's, there has been a lot of research on white nose syndrome since then, and it continues. It lacks funding, of course, as much research about wild animals does. But the disease itself is called white nose syndrome. The cause, the fungal cause of that disease is a fungus that grows in cool cave ecosystems. So the disease itself, which affects only bats, no other animals that we know of, and not humans, takes hold on cave hibernating bats. So the fungus is in the caves. It grows well in these cool, moist cave environments. The bats that hibernate in those areas can get this fungus on them that eventually can burrow into their skin and destroy skin tissue. It also wakes them up from hibernation. And in an area like New York, where they have more of a true winter than we do here in Texas, those bats are awakened and their skin is irritated. They've been hibernating. They've depleted much of their fat reserves, and they go out to try to feed. And, of course, in the middle of the winter, there's nothing to eat. That's actually how they discovered the disease, was finding hundreds of dead bats in the snow outside of a particular cave up in upstate New York. So it has since spread from one state to, I think, 34 now. It's spread across the country. It's in Texas. The fungus is in Texas, and the disease has been found in some bat species in Texas, not in the Freetailed. We believe and hope that Mexican Freetailed bats will not actually be affected by the disease. They can have the fungus on them, but not the disease, because they're not hibernators. Mexican Freetailed bats are bats that live in some caves where other bat species hibernate, but they don't hibernate themselves. They go into torpor for days at a time, occasionally in the winter, but they're not hibernating over the course of a winter. So we have not seen any Mexican Freetailed bats with the disease of white nose syndrome, and we hope that stays true into the future. So white nose syndrome is something that affects only bats and has killed millions and millions of bats. It has been studied. It continues to be studied. There is not a cure for it. However, we are hoping for some immunity in some bat species. The fungus actually came from some caves in Europe. Was probably brought to the United States. We don't know for sure, but the assumption is it was probably brought on the clothing or gear of people who had been in these European caves to American caves. So we can't really prevent the disease because there's no way to go into cave ecosystems and spray a fungicide on one fungus that doesn't have a disastrous effect on other biological entities in those complex ecosystems. So it's a tragedy, and it's something that we hope that in the United States will be able to fight off before some of these species are actually extinct. There is that possibility.